Rich Studley, sorry.
I'm Rich Studley, Michigan Chamber. I chose to sit down at this end of the table so I could keep an eye on Charlie. And I also wanted to sit at this end of the table with a fellow conservative from the Michigan Education Association. If you listen to the last panel discussion, the MEA and the Michigan Chamber are part of the evil special interest cabal that is opposed to the convening of a constitutional convention. So I think you'll find this an interesting panel today. In preparing for this panel, I took a look at a publication I would recommend to you. I would recommend that you not buy Charlie's book. I want you to wait until they make the movie, because there's talk about Robert Redford playing Charlie. I do think you should take a look at this book, Rich States, Poor States. It was released recently by the American Legislative Exchange Council, a nationwide group of lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans from many states, and they try to look at this relationship between tax policy and spending and economic competitiveness. I'm going to take a slightly different point of view. Are there any taxpayers here today? Show of hands. Good, good. How many of you know a young person who has left Michigan to find job opportunities elsewhere? How many of you have a friend, a neighbor, or a relative who has lost their job or suffered a reduction in pay or has left our state to seek job opportunities elsewhere? That's fairly typical. We do public opinion polling on a regular basis. A few months ago we did a poll, and in the demographics section we asked a question we hadn't asked before, which are really the two questions I've asked you. We asked the respondents in a statewide public opinion poll, have you or a member of your family lost your job, suffered a reduction in income, or do you know someone well who has had to move recently for job opportunities? 46% of the respondents said that they were in that category. Taxes are important. Taxes impact on both individuals and business. Taxes can have a big impact on the ability, the incentive to work and save and invest. It has never been the position of the Michigan Chamber that taxes are the only thing that impacts on our economy. We are a great state. We have tremendous natural resources, world-class universities, a skilled workforce. Why does the business community focus so much on tax policy, regulatory policy? Because we're impacted by a lot of events nationally and internationally that are outside our control. Decisions that are made about taxes and spending in Lansing is something that we can't control. This discussion about the priorities of state government. What do we provide? What do we not provide? What priority do we assign that is very important. Here's what I would suggest to you. The biggest problem we face today in the area of tax policy is not the method of taxation. The biggest problem we face is that we're running out of taxpayers. If you look at net domestic migration by state from 1999 to 2008, according to figures provided by the U.S. Census Bureau, Michigan is in the bottom 10 in terms of the number of states that have lost population. We're 47. Over that time period, we have lost 445,493 taxpayers. We need to focus more on job creation and economic growth and increasing the number of individuals who have jobs or who are involved in successful businesses. That is the only and the best guarantee we can have that there will be adequate revenue to fund essential services. Thank you.
Doug Pratt.
Well, I never thought that it would be a welcome relief from the campaign trail to go someplace and talk about tax policy, but this year, it seems like a nice break, particularly getting to sit next to my fellow left-wing conspirator, Mr. Studley.
Are you guys going to hug?
Not yet. It's coming. Hang tight. Last time we were together, when we hung, a report had just come out from the Pew Center. Some very high quality research. It was called Beyond California, States in Fiscal Peril. And my favorite quote from that, which was released last November, was Michigan's government is trying to deal with today's problems on a 1960s sized budget. If that doesn't make you stop and think, I don't know what will. We have a lot of challenges that we face in this state, and a lot of things have changed. Now, does that mean we have to throw out the whole system? No. But it means that we have to address components of it that we've left alone for a long time. For starters, that same Pew Center study talks about the fact that we give away $6.3 billion more in tax expenditures, incentives, rebates, all those other things we talked about, than we actually take in taxes. So if you look at it as a big pie chart, we're giving away more than we're taking in. That's the definition of unsustainable. We've got to take a step back and take a look at those things. Now, there's 30 billion plus in those expenditures. And a lot of them are doing really good things. We have to take a step back and actually look at them and go through an analysis to decide if they're still working. Because a lot of these things have been on the books for 20, 30 years. One that we talk about a lot is a tax loophole for satellite providers. It was put in place back in the late 70s, early 80s, because satellite was a burgeoning communications industry and they needed a competitiveness angle to take against cable. I don't think DirecTV is a burgeoning industry anymore. We have to take a step back and look at these things through a lens of, does it meet with our current priorities? Does it mesh with where we're going as a state? Does it still make sense? If we can go through a thought process and come to the conclusion that yes, it does, okay. Now, MEA has done a lot of work in recent years, specifically looking at business tax incentives and the effectiveness of those. And let me be very clear about this. MEA, as an organization, believes that business tax incentives can and are a good thing if they work, if they do their job. But we have to take and put them through the same analysis we were just talking about to make sure they're actually doing their job, to make sure they're bringing the jobs and the taxpayers that Rich talked about.
Today,